The year was 2247, and humanity had stretched its reach far beyond Earth. The stars were no longer distant points of light, but destinations mapped and claimed. Yet, for all the progress, Earth itself remained scared, a shadow of its former glory, battered by centuries of environmental collapse. Humanity's hubris had nearly cost them their home, but now they looked outward, seeking redemption among the stars. It was during a routine patrol near Saturn that the anomaly appeared. An automated probe stationed in orbit detected something drifting through the void. A massive spacecraft, ancient and battered, its surface pockmarked with craters from eons of collisions with space debris. Its design was alien, unlike anything recorded in human databases. There were no visible weapons or engines, just smooth, metallic panels that shimmered faintly under Saturn's dim light. It seemed dead, lifeless, abandoned. Captain Rhea Marquez stood on the bridge of the Solace, her ship hovering cautiously near the mysterious vessel. Her sharp eyes scanned the data pouring in from the probe. No power signatures, she muttered to herself, leaning forward in her command chair. No life signs, just silence. Could it be a derelict? Asked Lieutenant Nguyen, the linguist and communications officer. His voice carried a hint of excitement tinged with unease. Maybe an old trade ship, or something else. Rhea didn't answer immediately. She trusted her instincts, honed over decades of service. And right now, those instincts screamed caution. This wasn't just another hunk of space junk. Something about it felt deliberate, as if it had been left there for a reason. Send a recon team, she ordered finally, turning to face her crew. Dr. Voss, you're coming too. If there's anything inside, we'll need your expertise. Minutes later, the airlock hissed open as the team boarded the alien craft. The interior was dark, cold, and eerily silent. Their helmet lights cut through the gloom, revealing walls covered in strange etchings, symbols that glowed faintly when touched. Dr. Ilara Voss, the ship's xenobiologist, ran her gloved hand over one of the markings. "This isn't random," she said softly. "It's intentional. A message, maybe, or a warning." As they moved deeper into the ship, the tension grew thicker. The corridors twisted unnaturally, defying logic, as though designed for minds that perceived space differently. Then they found it, the stasis pod. At first glance, it looked like a coffin made of glass and metal, suspended in midair by some invisible force. Inside lay a small figure, curled up as if asleep. It wasn't human. Its skin was pale blue, almost translucent, with delicate ridges running along its arms and legs. Large, closed eyes dominated its face, framed by fine tendrils of silvery hair. Sensors confirmed it was alive, barely breathing, kept in suspended animation by the pod's failing systems. "It's a child," whispered Ilara, her voice trembling. She stepped closer, her heart pounding. "They abandoned it." The words hung heavy in the air. Whoever, or whatever, had built this ship had left this being behind. But why? Was it an act of cruelty, desperation, or hope? Back on the Solace, the crew debated what to do next. Some argued for immediate extraction, while others urged caution. Captain Marquez listened silently, her gaze fixed on the image of the sleeping alien transmitted to the main screen. For the first time in years, she felt unsure, not of the mission, but of humanity itself. Could they rise above their past mistakes, or would fear guide their actions once again? For now, the child slept, unaware of the storm brewing around it. But soon, it would awaken, and humanity would have to decide whether to embrace compassion or let fear dictate their future. The alien child stirred in the stasis pod, its delicate eyelids fluttering as if fighting against an unseen force. The medical bay of the Solace was quiet except for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional beep of monitors tracking the child's vital signs. Dr. Ilara Voss stood close, her face illuminated by the pale blue glow of the pod. She had spent hours studying the creature since bringing it aboard, yet every detail, The faint shimmer of its skin, the rhythmic rise and fall of its chest, still filled her with awe. "It's waking up," she murmured, glancing over her shoulder at Captain Ria Marquez, who leaned against the wall nearby. Her arms were crossed, but her sharp eyes betrayed unease. "Be ready." Ilara activated a neural translator clipped to her earpiece, a device designed to interpret brainwave patterns and translate thoughts into language. It wasn't perfect, especially when dealing with unknown species, but it was their best chance at communication. As the pod hissed open, releasing wisps of cold vapor, the child slowly sat up, blinking at the bright lights. Its large, luminous eyes scanned the room, wide with confusion and fear. Then, without warning, a wave of emotion crashed over everyone present. Panic, sadness, loneliness. It flooded their minds like a torrent, overwhelming and raw. Lieutenant Kai Nguyen staggered back, clutching his head, while Security Chief Marcus Hale muttered curses under his breath. Even Captain Marcus flinched, gripping the edge of a console for support. "Everyone, stay calm," Ilara shouted, raising her hands in a calming gesture. "It's not attacking us. It's trying to communicate." She approached the child cautiously, crouching down to meet its gaze. Her movements were slow, deliberate, meant to convey trust rather than threat. Reaching out, she placed a gentle hand on the edge of the pod. To her surprise, the emotions subsided slightly, replaced by curiosity. The child tilted its head, studying her intently. "It's scared," Ilara said softly, speaking more to herself than anyone else. "It doesn't understand where it is or who we are." Captain Marcus stepped forward, her expression grim. "Can you get anything coherent from it? Anything useful?" "I'm trying," Ilara replied, focusing on the neural translator. Faint pulses of thought began to form fragmented images in her mind. Flashes of a lush green world, towering structures bathed in golden light, and then chaos. Explosions, screams, darkness. "They're memories," Ilara whispered, her voice tinged with sadness. "This child has been through something terrible." As the crew processed this revelation, the child suddenly reached out, its small fingers brushing against Ilara's arm. A jolt of warmth shot through her, accompanied by a single clear word: "Promise." "What does that mean?" asked Kai, frowning. He adjusted his own translator, though it remained silent. "Is it talking about a promise someone made? Or—" Before anyone could answer, the child pulled back, curling into itself defensively. Its glowing eyes darted around the room, taking in the unfamiliar faces and equipment. Fear radiated off it once again, stronger this time. "We need to ease its anxiety," Ilara said quickly. Turning to a nearby console, she activated a recording of soft instrumental music, something simple and soothing. The melody filled the room, and after a moment, the child relaxed slightly, its tense posture easing. Marcus Hale, however, wasn't convinced. "This whole situation feels wrong," he growled, glaring at the child. "We don't know what it's capable of. What if it's dangerous? What if it's some kind of weapon?" "That's enough, Hale," Captain Marquez snapped, her tone sharp. "Until we have proof otherwise, we treat this being with respect. That's an order." Hale clenched his jaw, but didn't argue further. Instead, he turned on his heel and left the medical bay, muttering under his breath. Meanwhile, Ilara continued her efforts to connect with the child. Using gestures and expressions, she mimicked basic actions: eating, drinking, sleeping, hoping to establish some level of understanding. The child watched her closely, mimicking her movements hesitantly at first, then with growing confidence. By the end of the session, it managed to smile, a small tentative curve of its lips that sent a ripple of hope through the room. For the first time since discovering the derelict ship, the crew felt a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps this encounter wouldn't end in disaster. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could bridge the gap between two vastly different worlds. But outside the safety of the Solace, The vast emptiness of space loomed, a reminder that not all mysteries were meant to be solved easily. Would you like me to proceed with expanding Part 3 in the same style? Over the next few days, the alien child began to adapt to life aboard the Solace. Dr. Elara Voss spent hours each day working with it, using a mix of gestures, music, and visual aids to communicate. The neural translator proved inconsistent, often producing fragmented images rather than clear words. But slowly, patterns emerged, flashes of landscapes, towering cities, and faces that seemed both familiar and alien. These weren't random thoughts. They were memories, pieces of a story the child carried within. One evening, as Elara sat cross-legged on the floor of the medical bay, the child reached out hesitantly, placing its hand over hers. A flood of sensations rushed into her mind. Warmth, sadness, longing. And then came the visions. This time, they were vivid, almost overwhelming. She saw a lush planet bathed in golden sunlight, its skies streaked with hues of purple and orange. Towering trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves shimmering like liquid metal. Cities rose from the horizon, blending seamlessly with nature. Structures made of crystal-like material that pulsed faintly with light. It was beautiful, but beneath the surface, something darker lurked. The scene shifted abruptly. Explosions tore through the sky, sending shockwaves rippling across the land. Buildings crumbled, forests burned, and rivers turned black with ash. Screams echoed in the distance, mingling with the roar of collapsing structures. In the chaos, figures moved frantically, some fleeing, others fighting. Among them was the child, smaller than, clutching the hand of an adult who looked eerily similar to it. They ran together, desperate, until they reached a massive ship, the very one now drifting near Saturn. Elara gasped, pulling her hand away as the vision faded. Her heart raced, not just from the intensity of what she'd seen, but from the realization dawning on her. It wasn't abandoned by choice, she whispered, looking at the child with new understanding. They sent it away. To save it. Word spread quickly among the crew. Captain Ria Marquez called an emergency meeting in the briefing room, where Elara shared what she had learned. The mood was somber as the team pieced together the implications. The child's homeworld had been destroyed, or nearly so, and its people had chosen to send their young ones into the void rather than let them perish. "This is bigger than us," said Lieutenant Kainguian, leaning forward in his seat. His voice trembled slightly. "If we can decode more of their language, maybe we can figure out why this happened. Maybe even find a way to help." But not everyone shared his optimism. Engineer Samira Patel, usually calm and pragmatic, spoke up with concern. "Help how? We don't even know if there's anyone left alive back there. And even if there is, do you think humanity's ready to play savior? Look at Earth. We barely saved ourselves." Her words struck a nerve, especially with Security Chief Marcus Hale, who had grown increasingly distrustful of the child. "Exactly," he snapped, slamming his fist on the table. "We're risking our lives for something we don't understand. What if this kid isn't harmless? What if it's some kind of Trojan horse?" Captain Marquez raised a hand, silencing the growing argument. "Enough," she said firmly. "Speculation won't get us anywhere. For now, we focus on keeping it safe and figuring out what to do next." Later that night, Elara returned to the medical bay, finding the child curled up on a makeshift bed. Its eyes met hers, filled with a mixture of curiosity and sadness. She sat beside it, showing it pictures of Earth on a tablet. Images of oceans, mountains, and bustling cities. Then she showed it photos of ruined landscapes, polluted rivers, and barren wastelands. "You see," she said softly, pointing to the contrasting images. "We've made mistakes too. Big ones, but we're trying to fix them. Maybe together, we can learn from each other." The child tilted its head, studying the screen. Then, unexpectedly, it placed its hand over hers again. This time, the vision was different. A single tree sprouting from cracked soil, its branches reaching toward the sky. Hope. Ilara smiled despite herself. Whatever challenges lay ahead, one thing was clear. The child wasn't just a relic of a lost world. It was a bridge. A chance for humanity to prove it could rise above its flaws and embrace compassion. Outside the ship, the stars twinkled silently, indifferent to the drama unfolding aboard the Solace. Yet somewhere in the vast expanse, answers, and perhaps dangers, waited. Days turned into weeks, and the alien child began to settle into life aboard the Solace. It had no name, or at least none that the crew could decipher, but it quickly became a central figure in their daily routines. Dr. Ilara Voss spent most of her time teaching it basic human concepts: colors, shapes, food, and emotions. The child absorbed everything with remarkable speed, often surprising the crew with its ability to mimic behaviors and solve simple problems. Lieutenant Kai Nguyen took a particular interest in the child's language. Using advanced algorithms and the neural translator, he worked tirelessly to decode its telepathic signals. Progress was slow, but one word stood out repeatedly: promise. It seemed to hold deep meaning for the child, though its exact context remained elusive. Was it a vow made by its people, a hope for the future, or something else entirely? The child also formed a bond with Lieutenant Nguyen himself. During their sessions, it would sit quietly beside him, watching as he manipulated holographic displays of alien symbols. When he stumbled over particularly complex patterns, the child would reach out, touching the screen or his hand, filling his mind with bursts of clarity. These moments left Kai both exhilarated and humbled. "It's like it's guiding me," he admitted to Ilara one evening, "as if it wants us to understand." But not everyone shared this sense of wonder. Security Chief Marcus Hale grew increasingly agitated, his distrust festering like an open wound. He rarely entered the medical bay, preferring to monitor the child from surveillance feeds instead. To him, every interaction felt like a risk, a gamble humanity couldn't afford to take. His concerns came to a head during a routine maintenance check of the ship's reactor core. An unexpected power surge caused alarms to blare throughout the vessel, sending the crew scrambling. In the chaos, the child reacted instinctively. As engineers raced to stabilize the system, it placed its hands on a nearby console, closing its eyes in concentration. Within moments, the readings stabilized, the fluctuating energy levels smoothing out as if guided by an unseen force. "What just happened?" Samira Patel asked, staring at the now steady display. Her voice trembled with disbelief. "It fixed it," muttered one of the junior engineers, wide-eyed. "How is that even possible?" Word of the incident spread quickly, dividing the crew further. Some saw it as proof of the child's benevolence, while others, like Hale, viewed it as evidence of unpredictable and potentially dangerous abilities. "You see," Hale argued later in the mess hall, his voice rising above the murmurs of conversation, "we don't know what it's capable of. What if it loses control? What if it decides we're a threat?" Captain Ria Marquez intervened before the argument escalated. "Enough," she said firmly, fixing Hale with a steely gaze. "We're not jumping to conclusions based on fear. That's not who we are." Despite the tension, the child continued to win over hearts. One night, during a rare moment of downtime, it joined the crew in the observation deck, a spacious chamber with panoramic windows offering breathtaking views of Saturn's rings. The child pressed its hands against the glass, mesmerized by the swirling colors and distant moons. For the first time since its arrival, it laughed, a soft, melodic sound that filled the room and brought smiles to even the most skeptical faces. Even Marcus Hale found himself pausing outside the doorway, watching silently as the child interacted with the crew. There was something undeniably pure about it, something that tugged at the edges of his hardened resolve. But he shook off the feeling, reminding himself of the risks. Back in the medical bay, Ilara noticed subtle changes in the child's behavior. It began mimicking more complex actions, such as drawing pictures on a tablet or helping prepare meals in the galley. Each small milestone reinforced the growing connection between it and the crew. Yet, amid these moments of joy, shadows lingered. The child still projected fragments of its past, visions of destruction, loss, and pain that haunted Ilara's dreams. One evening, as she tucked the child into bed, she whispered softly, "We'll protect you. I promise." The child looked up at her, its luminous eyes reflecting trust and perhaps gratitude. For the first time, Ilara felt a spark of hope. Perhaps humanity wasn't destined to repeat its mistakes. Perhaps, through compassion, they could forge a new path, not just for themselves, but for the fragile being entrusted to their care. Outside the ship, the vast expanse of space stretched endlessly, indifferent yet full of possibilities. And aboard the Solace, bonds were forming that transcended species, proving that even in the coldest corners of the universe, warmth could be found. The Solace was 3 weeks into its journey back to Earth when the first signs of trouble appeared. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a glitch, a faint blip on the ship's long-range sensors that flickered in and out of detection. Engineer Samira Patel dismissed it as interference from Saturn's magnetic field, but Lieutenant Kain Nguyen wasn't so sure. "It's moving," he said during a late-night shift in the observation deck, his eyes glued to the sensor readings. "Whatever it is, it's following us." Captain Ria Marquez arrived moments later, her face tight with concern. She had seen enough anomalies in her career to know when something felt off, and this definitely qualified. The object, or whatever it was too far away to identify clearly, but its erratic movements suggested intelligence rather than coincidence. Could it be another alien vessel? Ilara asked, joining them. Her tone was calm, though her hands trembled slightly around the tablet she carried. "We can't rule it out," Marx replied, pacing slowly. "But if it is, why now? Why here?" As the hours passed, the mysterious presence grew closer, its energy signature becoming stronger and more distinct. The crew began taking shifts monitoring the sensors, their nerves stretched taut like wires ready to snap. Even Marcus Hale, who rarely left his post near the weapon systems, found himself drawn to the bridge, his hand resting instinctively on the hilt of his sidearm. Then came the nightmares. It started subtly. A restless night for one crew member, then another. By the third day, almost everyone aboard the Solace was plagued by vivid, horrifying dreams. They dreamed of fire raining from the sky, of shadowy figures reaching out with claws instead of hands, of voices whispering in languages no human tongue could form. And always at the center of these visions stood the alien child, its glowing eyes filled with terror. Ilara realized what was happening first. Rushing to the medical bay, she found the child curled up tightly, trembling as if caught in the grip of some unseen force. Its telepathic abilities were amplifying the fear spreading through the ship, turning private anxieties into shared horrors. "It's not doing this on purpose," Ilara explained to Captain Marquez after calming the child down. "It's projecting its own fears, its memories, onto all of us. Something out there is scaring it." Marquez nodded grimly. "Then we need to figure out what it is before it drives us all mad." That night, the crew gathered in the briefing room, their faces pale and drawn. Despite their exhaustion, they knew they had to act quickly. Using every tool at their disposal, they analyzed the data pouring in from the sensors. Finally, Kai spotted something unusual, a faint trail of radiation matching the composition of the derelict ship where they'd found the child. "It's from the same species," he said, his voice low. "Maybe survivors, or whoever abandoned it." The implications weighed heavily on everyone. If the approaching vessel belonged to the child's people, why hadn't they responded to attempts at communication? Were they searching for it, or hunting it? Before they could decide their next move, disaster struck. A sudden surge of static overwhelmed the ship's systems, causing lights to flicker and alarms to blare. On the main screen, a massive shape materialized out of the darkness. a jagged, ominous silhouette that dwarfed the solace. Its surface shimmered unnaturally, as though alive, and its edges blurred like smoke. Panic erupted among the crew. Weapons online. Hale barked, sprinting toward the controls. "We need to defend ourselves." "No," Ilara shouted, stepping between him and the console. "You'll provoke them. Let me try communicating first." With shaking hands, she activated the neural translator, focusing all her attention on the child. The creature stared at her, its wide eyes brimming with fear, but also determination. Slowly, it raised its hand, placing it over hers. A wave of warmth surged through her, followed by a single clear thought: trust. Taking a deep breath, Ilara transmitted the message, not in words, but in emotions. Hope, compassion, peace. For several agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the shadowy vessel vanished, leaving only silence behind. The crew exhaled collectively, slumping against walls and chairs. No one spoke. They didn't need to. Whatever had been out there, the child had saved them, all because it chose to trust humanity. In the quiet aftermath, Captain Marquez looked at the child, her expression softening. "Looks like you've got our backs, little one," she murmured. "And we've got yours." Outside the ship, the stars twinkled silently once more, their light undisturbed. But aboard the Solace, bonds had deepened, and courage had triumphed over fear. Would you like me to continue expanding Part 6 in the same style? The encounter with the mysterious vessel left the crew shaken but alive. For hours after it disappeared, no one spoke much. The weight of what had happened hung heavy in the air, a reminder that they were not alone in the universe, and that their decisions carried consequences far beyond their understanding. Dr. Ilara Voss sat quietly in the medical bay, watching the child as it dozed fitfully on its makeshift bed. Its breathing was shallow, its small body curled tightly, as if trying to protect itself from unseen threats. She couldn't help but feel responsible for it, not just as a scientist, but as someone who had come to care deeply for this fragile being. "What happens now?" she whispered aloud, though there was no one to answer. Captain Ria Marquez wrestled with the same question. In her quarters, she stared at the holographic map projected above her desk, tracing the route back to Earth. Officially, her mission was clear: return to United Earth Coalition, UEC, headquarters, deliver the alien child, and let the bureaucrats decide its fate. But something about that plan felt wrong, like handing over a wounded bird to hunters instead of setting it free. She called an emergency meeting in the briefing room. When the crew gathered, their faces reflected a mix of exhaustion and uncertainty. Marcus Hale stood stiffly near the door, his arms crossed, while Samira Patil fidgeted with a tablet, avoiding eye contact. Only Kai Nguyen seemed eager to speak, his eyes bright despite the dark circles beneath them. "We can't go back," he said bluntly, cutting through the tension. "Not yet. Not until we know more about what's out there, and why that ship came after us. And what exactly do you propose we do?" Hale snapped, glaring at him. "Wander around space playing babysitters. We're already risking enough by keeping it aboard." "It's not it," Ilara interjected sharply, her voice rising. "It's a child, and it's safest back there. Whatever that thing was, it didn't attack because of the child. That should tell you something." Hale opened his mouth to argue, but Captain Marquez raised a hand, silencing both sides. "Enough," she said firmly. "This isn't about opinions anymore. It's about choices and consequences." She turned to face the group, her expression resolute. "If we take this child back to Earth, UEC will lock it away in some lab. They'll study it, dissect it, maybe even weaponize whatever abilities it has. Is that really what we want?" The room fell silent. Even Hale looked uneasy, though he refused to meet anyone's gaze. "There's another option," Marquez continued, pointing to a distant star system marked on the holographic display. "There's an exoplanet listed in classified UEC archives, a hidden world untouched by human activity. If we bring the child there, it might have a chance to survive without interference. But that's mutiny, Samira protested weakly. We'd be disobeying direct orders. Maybe, Marquez admitted, but sometimes doing the right thing means breaking rules. I won't force any of you into this. If you want to stay loyal to the UAC, I'll drop you off at the nearest station. But if you believe in giving this child a real chance, then stand with me. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Kai stepped forward. I'm in, he said, his voice steady. We owe it to the kid. Ilara followed suit, nodding firmly. Count me in too. One by one, the others joined them, even Samira, though her hands trembled as she took a step forward. Only Hale remained rooted in place, his jaw clenched tight. You're making a mistake, he growled. Mark my words. Marcus met his gaze evenly. Then leave Marcus. No hard feelings. But don't try to stop us. After a tense pause, Hale stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. The remaining crew exchanged glances, knowing they had crossed a point of no return. Later that evening, the child woke up briefly, sensing the shift in mood. It reached out to Ilara, projecting images of gratitude and trust. She smiled softly, brushing its silvery hair with her fingers. Don't worry, she murmured. We'll keep you safe. We promise. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the drama unfolding aboard the Solace. Yet within the ship, a new resolve burned brightly, a beacon of hope guiding humanity toward a better path. The decision to defy UEC orders weighed heavily on the crew, but there was no turning back now. The Solace charted a course for the hidden exoplanet listed in the classified archives, a world so remote it had been deemed uninhabitable by early explorers. Yet as they approached, their sensors revealed something extraordinary. The planet wasn't barren at all. It was teeming with life. Lush forests stretched across vast continents, their canopies shimmering with bioluminescent hues under twin suns. Rivers carved through mountain ranges, glinting like liquid silver in the daylight, and scattered throughout the landscape were strange crystalline formations that pulsed faintly, as if alive. It was breathtaking, an untouched Eden waiting to be discovered. This is perfect, Dr. Ilara Voss whispered, her eyes wide as she studied the data streaming into the ship's monitors. It's like it was made for the child. Captain Ria Marquez nodded, though her expression remained cautious. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still need to make sure it's safe for both the child and us. As the Solace entered orbit, the crew worked tirelessly to gather information about the planet's atmosphere, gravity, and ecosystems. To their relief, everything seemed compatible with human and alien physiology alike. There were no signs of hostile wildlife or dangerous anomalies, just an overwhelming sense of peace emanating from below. When they finally landed near a clearing surrounded by towering trees, the child reacted immediately. As soon as the airlock opened, it stepped out hesitantly, its bare feet touching the soft, mossy ground. For a moment, it froze, tilting its head as if listening to something only it could hear. Then, without warning, it began to run, laughing, spinning, and leaping with pure joy. It's happy, Kai Nguyen said softly, watching from the ramp. I've never seen it like this before. Ilara smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. It feels home. But the journey wasn't over yet. Establishing a sanctuary would require more than just finding a beautiful planet. They needed shelter, food, and protection against any unforeseen dangers. Working together, the crew set up temporary habitats using modular equipment stored aboard the Solace. Samira Padal designed filtration systems to purify water, while Kai experimented with local flora to determine what was edible. Even Marcus Hale, who had begrudgingly stayed behind after refusing to leave, contributed by fortifying their perimeter with automated defense drones. What surprised everyone most, however, was the child's role in their efforts. It didn't just adapt to its new surroundings, it thrived. When tools malfunctioned or supplies ran low, The child would place its hands on the problem and project waves of energy that fixed broken machinery or accelerated plant growth. At first, the crew marveled at these abilities, but soon they came to rely on them. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in shades of lavender and gold, the crew gathered around a small fire outside their makeshift camp. The child sat beside Ilara, mimicking her actions as she roasted pieces of fruit-like pods harvested earlier that day. Laughter filled the air, something none of them had expected when they first embarked on this mission. "This is crazy," Samira said, shaking her head with a grin. "We're literally building a home for an alien child on some random planet light years from Earth. And we're doing it together," Captain Marquez added, raising a makeshift cup in a toast to hope and second chances. The child looked up at her, its glowing eyes reflecting the flames. Slowly, it reached out, placing its hand over hers. A warm sensation spread through the group, not telepathic visions this time, but a shared feeling of unity and purpose. For the first time since leaving Saturn, the crew felt truly hopeful. They weren't just rescuers anymore. They were protectors, guardians of a fragile being, and perhaps of humanity's own future. Above them, the stars twinkled silently, witnesses to a bond forged among strangers united by compassion. In the heart of this uncharted paradise, a new chapter began, not just for the child, but for all of them. Would you like me to continue expanding Part 8 in the same style? The harmony on the hidden exoplanet was fragile, a delicate balance held together by trust and shared purpose. But not everyone aboard the Solace had embraced their new mission with open arms. Security Chief Marcus Hale still harbored deep resentment toward Captain Marquez's decision to defy UEC orders. To him, this entire endeavor was reckless, a betrayal of duty and loyalty. Hale spent most of his time patrolling the perimeter of their camp, pacing like a caged animal. His eyes darted constantly between the lush forest around them and the crew members laughing and working together near the fire. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were fools, naive idealists playing at being saviors while ignoring the risks. What if the child wasn't as harmless as it seemed? What if danger lurked just beyond the trees? One night, as the rest of the crew slept soundly under the glow of the twin moons, Hale made his move. Slipping into the command center of the Solace, he accessed the encrypted communication system. Though the ship was grounded, its long-range transmitter remained operational. With trembling hands, he typed out a message. "Unauthorized expedition detected. Coordinates attached. Request immediate intervention." Before hitting send, he hesitated, staring at the screen. Guilt tugged at him, not because he doubted the necessity of his actions, but because he knew how much pain this would cause. Yet in his mind, there was no other choice. The child and the crew were liabilities. Humanity couldn't afford to gamble with unknown threats. As soon as the transmission went through, Hale felt a strange mix of relief and dread. He returned to his post outside the camp, pretending nothing had happened. For now, he reasoned, ignorance worked in his favor. The UEC wouldn't arrive for weeks, maybe months. By then, he could convince himself that what he'd done was justified. But secrets have a way of surfacing. The next morning, the child began acting strangely. It wandered aimlessly near the edge of the forest, its glowing eyes clouded with unease. When Ilara approached, it placed its hand over hers, projecting fragmented images into her mind. Flashes of ships descending from the sky, humans in uniform, and Marcus Hale standing alone, his face grim. "Something's wrong," Ilara told Captain Marquez urgently. "It's sensing something or someone." Marquez immediately ordered a sweep of the area. While Kai and Samira scoured the forest for signs of external threats, Marquez confronted Hale directly. "What do you know about this?" she demanded, her voice sharp as steel. Hale didn't deny it. Instead, he met her gaze defiantly. "You think I'm going to sit back and watch you throw away everything we've built? That thing is dangerous, and you're all too blind to see it." His admission sent shockwaves through the group. Tempers flared during an emergency meeting, accusations flying like daggers. Some argued for forgiveness, others for punishment. In the chaos, the child stepped forward, placing itself between Hale and the rest of the crew. Its presence radiated calm, silencing the argument. "It's trying to protect us," Elara realized aloud, tears welling up in her eyes. "Even after everything we've put it through, it still trusts us." Shane washed over Hale's face, though he tried to hide it. "Fine," he muttered bitterly. "Do what you want. But when this goes south, don't say I didn't warn you." In the days that followed, tensions eased slightly, but the damage was done. The crew redoubled their efforts to fortify the settlement, knowing help, or trouble, might come sooner than expected. Meanwhile, the child continued to heal wounds both physical and emotional, mending broken equipment, and soothing frayed nerves. Despite the betrayal, hope endured. As the suns rose once again, casting golden light over their sanctuary, the crew found solace in each other, and in the knowledge that even amidst fear and doubt, compassion could prevail. Would you like me to continue expanding Part 9 in the same style? Weeks passed, and the crew of the Solace worked tirelessly to transform their temporary camp into a thriving sanctuary. The child had become an integral part of their efforts, its abilities proving invaluable in ways they could never have anticipated. Seeds planted by Samira Patel sprouted overnight under the child's touch, growing into sturdy crops that promised food security. Broken machinery repaired itself with a mere brush of its hand, saving hours of labor. Even the crystalline formations scattered across the planet seemed to hum softly in response to its presence, as though acknowledging it as kin. Despite Marcus Hale's betrayal and his continued skepticism, the crew had rallied together, united by their shared purpose. They built shelters from local materials, reinforced defenses using salvaged parts from the ship, and explored deeper into the planet's uncharted wilderness. Each discovery brought new wonder: bioluminescent caves teeming with strange creatures, rivers rich with edible fish-like organisms, and forests alive with melodic sounds unlike anything on Earth. Yet, amidst this progress, there was an underlying tension, a quiet awareness that their time here might be fleeting. The transmission Hale had sent would eventually reach UEC Command, and when it did, the fragile peace they had created would shatter. One morning, as the twin suns bathed the settlement in golden light, Dr. Elara Voss stood beside the child near the edge of the forest. She watched as it knelt to examine a cluster of glowing flowers, its delicate fingers tracing their petals. "Do you think it understands what we're doing?" she asked Captain Ria Marquez, who approached silently. "I think it does," Marx replied, her voice soft but firm. "It knows we're trying to keep it safe. And maybe it's teaching us something too." Elara nodded thoughtfully. Over time, the child had begun mimicking more complex behaviors, not just survival skills, but acts of kindness. It helped heal minor injuries among the crew, calmed frayed nerves during disagreements, and even attempted crude drawings to communicate ideas. These small gestures reminded them why they had chosen this path: to protect innocence and foster understanding rather than succumb to fear. Later that day, the crew gathered for a rare moment of rest. Around the fire, laughter echoed once again as Kain Guain entertained everyone with stories of his childhood on Mars. Even Hale, sitting apart from the group, couldn't suppress a faint smile at one particularly funny tale. For all his flaws, he wasn't immune to the camaraderie slowly rebuilding around him. But the tranquility was short-lived. 2 days later, sensors aboard the Solace detected incoming vessels, 3 sleek ships bearing the unmistakable insignia of the United Earth Coalition. Panic rippled through the camp as the reality of their situation sank in. The UEC had found them. Captain Marquez called an emergency meeting. "We can't fight them," she said bluntly, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Our only option is to hide the child." The crew scrambled to execute the plan. Using tools and materials scavenged from the ship, they constructed a concealed underground chamber beneath the largest tree in the clearing. The child understood immediately, nodding solemnly as Ilara explained what needed to happen. Though it projected feelings of sadness and fear, it also radiated trust, an unwavering belief in the crew's intentions. As the UEC ships descended, the child stepped into the hidden chamber, clutching a small stone carved with symbols resembling those etched on the derelict vessel where it had been found. Before sealing the entrance, Ilara whispered, "We'll come back for you. I promise." When the UEC soldiers arrived, demanding answers, the crew stood united, deflecting questions about the child while subtly guiding the visitors away from the settlement. Their resolve was tested, but not broken. For now, the child was safe, but the crew knew this was only the beginning of a much larger battle, one that would determine not just the fate of the child, but the future of humanity itself. Above them, the stars twinkled serenely, witnesses to both the courage and compassion displayed by those who dared to defy fear for the sake of hope. The days following the UEC's arrival were tense, but the crew of the Solace held their ground. Captain Ria Marquez faced relentless questioning from the commanding officer, a stern woman named Admiral Jansen, who demanded to know why they had abandoned protocol and ventured so far beyond human space. The crew's answers were carefully crafted, half-truths and omissions designed to protect the child hidden beneath the forest floor. "We found nothing of value here," Marcus Hale lied reluctantly, his voice tinged with guilt. "Just an uninhabitable wasteland." Admiral Jansen wasn't convinced. Her sharp eyes scanned the makeshift settlement, lingering on the glowing crystalline formations scattered nearby. "This planet doesn't look like a wasteland to me," she said coldly. "If you're hiding something, I suggest you come clean now." But the crew stood firm, their loyalty to each other and to the child stronger than fear of retribution. After 2 grueling days of searches and interrogations, the UEC ships departed, leaving behind only silence and uncertainty. When the engine's roar faded into the distance, the crew exhaled collectively. One by one, they returned to the hidden chamber beneath the tree, where the child waited patiently. As sunlight streamed through the opening, the child emerged, its luminous eyes reflecting gratitude and relief. It reached out, placing its hands over Ilara's heart, projecting waves of warmth that spread to everyone present. "You're safe now," Ilara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We kept our promise." Over the next several months, the crew dedicated themselves fully to building a life on the planet they had come to call Eden. With the child's help, they constructed sturdy homes, cultivated bountiful crops, and even began documenting the planet's unique ecosystem. The bond between them deepened, transcending species and language. The child taught them how to listen, to the wind, the rivers, and the pulse of the land itself. In return, they shared stories of Earth, painting pictures of humanity's struggles and triumphs. Years passed, and word of their defiance spread across human colonies. Tales of the Solace became legend, a testament to courage, empathy, and the power of compassion. Back on Earth, inspired by these stories, people rallied behind efforts to restore their home planet. Forests were replanted, oceans cleaned, and cities rebuilt with sustainability in mind. Humanity began to see itself not as conquerors of nature, but as stewards of it. Meanwhile, on Eden, the child grew older, maturing into a being of remarkable wisdom and grace. It served as a bridge between worlds, teaching both humans and its scattered kin how to heal old wounds and coexist peacefully. Fragments of its lost civilization slowly resurfaced as other survivors emerged from the stars, drawn to the beacon of hope radiating from the hidden planet. One evening, under the glow of the twin moons, Captain Marquez stood beside the child, gazing at the horizon. "Do you ever wonder what your people would think of us?" she asked softly. The child smiled, a gesture now familiar and comforting, and placed a hand over hers. Images filled her mind. Visions of unity, cooperation, and endless possibilities. "They'd be proud," Marx murmured, understanding without words. In time, the legacy of the Solace proved that even in the darkest moments, humanity could shine brightly as a beacon of hope, for others and for itself. And though challenges remained, the lessons learned on Eden reminded them that compassion was the true key to survival. Above, the stars twinkled silently, indifferent yet eternal. Below, a new chapter had begun, one written not in ink, but in acts of kindness and courage.